sees me jumping out of a plane. I'm an extremist. I love extreme sport. I love living on the edge. I love passion. I love life. And when you live with a condition like I do, you get to the point where you really start to appreciate life, and you're living in the moment. And, you know, this filming is 100% in the moment. I'm not even going to sort of like mess around with it. But you sort of plan for the future, live in the moment, and you learn from the past. And if I sat here and I did a massive big timeline, and I have done over the last couple of years, I've had photographs right the way through from my birth all the way through, because I have been trying to put a few things together and understand a few things myself. Because at the end of the day, I've gone to the services, I've gone to the professionals. I'm a human being. I know what I know. I've learnt what I've learnt. I've learnt from the environment that I'm in. I've learnt from my parents. Luckily, I've had more parents than most, so I've never just had the mindset of 2 parents. I've had 6 and foster parents, and been raised by a community, really. I've had lots of influences, and I've always been somebody who's a bit of a sponge, and I'll learn from what's around me. I'll learn from my environment, and then at night time I'll wring it out, and all the shit comes out, and I'm left with, you know, what is right for me. Now, I am the sort of person who does what she wants, when she wants, with who she wants. I've never ever been the sort of person to be pulled into what anybody else is doing. I stand on my own 2 feet, and I do what I think is right. Now, I've come to a point in my life where everything I'm about to do, even what I'm doing here now, everything is against the beliefs of everybody else. I've decided to film this because I want this to go global. I want a problem that is going on in our country to come to a massive big halt, an abrupt halt. It has to stop. We have to be aware of what is going on, and we have to do something about it. And every person who watches this, if you choose to say interesting or judge me in any way and walk away from this, then you are worse than the problem that is going on. If you are willing to watch this and say, okay, I need to know more, then connect with me on Facebook. My name's Kellie Cottam. You can Google me, IE, for the Kellie, and I'm very easily to find. You can Google Benefit Britain and I will come up with that. I love my country. I love the world that I live in. I love animals, I love kids, and I love people. Even the ones out there who are really angry and really hurt and quite damaged, I've got a heart for more than most. I do spend time with people who you label as homeless, who are on the streets. I do spend time with people who you call drug addicts. I do spend time with prostitutes, ex-one myself, escort, high class. But I do spend time with people that society would separate, alienate, and write off. And this is wrong. It's wrong what's going on. The stigma attached to people is wrong. The way people are judged is wrong. One thing that I have a real passion for is people who don't have a voice, because it really pisses me off, right? And there's a lot of people out there who will kick people when they're down, makes them feel good. People like to be in power. People like to have control over people. A lot of dogma, a lot of rules. And in this country, there's a massive big fear of a revolution in this country. People like to have some certainty. They like to know what's going on. And the fear of a revolution coming is something that our parliament and our government is really dreading. And on the 5th of November, that is coming. And there will be a lot of people who will be outside parliament, and they will be wearing masks. And I'm urging every single one of you to take your masks off. We don't need the masks. We don't need to hide ourselves. We don't need to protect our jobs or our income so we can pay our TV licence. Because believe it or not, you don't even need to pay your TV licence. There's a lot of stuff that you don't need to be doing. There's a lot of stuff that you're told that is not true. Now, you are your own person, and your government does not control or dictate what you do. There are obligations because we need some form of order. There would be chaos if everybody was trying to run around and do stuff. But nobody is the same. Nobody wants the same stuff. Nobody is trying to obtain the same dreams. We're all part of a piece of puzzle. We're all part of the bigger picture. And I don't think that this utopian society could ever exist, but I'd like to think that you could walk down the street and say hello to people. I'd like to think that if your fellow neighbour was in trouble, bag of sugar, whatever, that people would help each other out. Now, what's actually going on, and I'm not going to talk about the one world order as such on this, but you can do your own research. It's not a conspiracy, it exists. The Rothschilds exist, but one of the reasons that I'm not going to discuss it is because until I've sat down with the Rothschilds myself, and I will do, and I ask them the questions directly, I don't believe in listening to anything unless it comes out the horse's mouth, and I'll make my own judgment. There's a lot of smoke screens and information going on, and until I see it myself, I choose to maybe sit on the fence on a few things and research, but I will never ignore what's going on, because from this is stemming a circle ring of children that are being abducted, children who are being abused, and this has to stop. Polarity exists. For every good, there's always going to be a bad. But what this country needs is balance. We're never, ever, ever going to be able to completely rid this world of child abuse, because there will always be a line. What we can try to do is hold that line more and be better people. I don't believe that any person who gives birth to a child gives birth with the intention of abusing that child. I have seen something recently in the paper where two parents have actually given birth to a child with the intentions of sexually abusing that child. Now, sexual abuse goes on, domestic violence goes on, rape goes on, drugs go on, beating of children go on. And we even know that it goes as bad as a baby's body being kept for numerous amounts of years. And we're all aware of baby P. Now, sometimes people cross lines because they're hurting themselves. And sometimes people have been through this circumstances. Now, I put myself in foster care when I was 15 because after all of that stuff, I still wasn't getting the help that I needed. And I still needed to understand my own abuse. I needed the help and I couldn't do it by myself. And I was told that abusers abuse. I was like, hell, not the fuck, I ain't doing that. Why am I going to do that to somebody? So, but that's the stigma that social services attach. Now, we need to break this cycle. And just because somebody has been through abuse does not mean that they are going to abuse other people. I've been sexually abused. There ain't a chance in hell I'd do that to my own children. I've been physically hit. I'd never even smack my child. Because of what's happened to me makes me better for being a mum. Because I've got great examples of who I don't want to be. I haven't always had the best examples of who I want to be, but I know what I don't want. And sometimes we don't always get what we want because that's what we're focusing on. Now, I did take my degree in psychology. I did get into coaching. I did get into NLP. There isn't a personal development thing I haven't studied. There isn't a religion or faith that I haven't studied. I was originally a youth worker. I was 21 and I brought my children up at work and they grew up, Liam and Daniel. I have said their names. They're quite happy for me to say their names. They are already in the public eye. I do ask any people who know my children, you let them do the talking, and you know they're quite happy. They support and back me with what I'm doing, and we've spoken at length about what their mum's doing, and my children are very prepared for the positive and negative that we may receive, and I believe that my children are strong enough to deal with this. So I took the courses that I did not because I ever wanted to do something with that in my working career. I did it because the country had already written me off in work. When I was doing the youth service, my own physical health was causing more problems with health and safety than anything else that was sort of going on. And eventually it was decided that I wouldn't be able to be medically fit to be able to work. And I was signed off and declared unfit for work. Now, I like to take a positive angle, and I saw this as not fit for work that I was doing, but could possibly retrain and come back into a position where it wouldn't matter whether I was sick or not. So as a single mum, and by the time I went to uni, I was a single mum. I'd had 2 children. Both my children were pretty young. And when I finished uni, I then found myself in a catch-22. Okay, I'm shut out of employment because society does not support the disabled people in the working force. They say they do, and if there's something that they can manage, that's not a problem. But disability equality doesn't actually exist in this country. There is a massive big campaign that apparently we will have disability equality by 2024. Woohoo! That really helps me right now, doesn't it? That also means my 2 children who are stuck in foster care will not be recognised until they're 15 or 16. So their whole lives could be destroyed just because of the stigma that's attached to a hidden disability. I don't agree with that. So when I came to the situation where I was going to decide how was I going to come out the benefit system, I did what most people probably wouldn't do. And I sat down and I worked out exactly how much money I get. I drew up my income support. I looked at my housing benefit, my council tax, my milk tokens, and all of the things that the government was supporting my family with. Very, very, very honoured that we live in a country that has a benefit system. Of course I am. Somebody like myself would have been very stuck. The education system doesn't teach you to make money, it teaches you to get a job. And in the situation that I was in, I was considered unemployable. I didn't know of other methods to be able to make money, and I do now. I haven't yet applied that because of this situation that I'm in. I have been attempting to, and after the court date, I have every intentions of taking action on everything that I've learned. Now, the problem that you've got with the benefit system is when you go into it, it's divided into single parent advisor and disability advisor. Never the twain shall meet. The right hand doesn't talk to the left. I said this on the BBC. Now, when you're trying to come out of the system as a self-employed person, and they have been changing this, they have been adapting this and listening to stuff that I've been saying and agreeing with me. And there are systems now for you to be able to go self-employed and set yourself up and things like that. But the challenge I had as a mum, now, by time that this come around, I'd been out of uni, I'd got so far, I'd been in another relationship, and I'd had 2 further children. Now, this is also labelled domestic violence. My partner was violent to me.